Dane Bradshaw, SEC Network analyst, good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us here as we start hour 3. Dane, always great to catch up, man. How are you?
Yeah, likewise. Been doing great. I had you guys a bunch last year and hadn't had a single LSU assignment. I've been blackballed. But, thanks for at least having me on the air.
Are you going to have an LSU assignment? Do you know?
Nothing on the radar right now. So, see, what typically happens is I get the teams that they don't think are going to be that good, and then when they get really good the next year, they go up to the E1, E2 game.
Well,
maybe one day. I've got my goals.
If I had my druthers, Dane, you'd be down here every. We just move you in and let you come do the show with us every other week in studio. How about that?
That'd be great. I appreciate it.
All right, man. So give me a thought though on how it's obviously not a bad loss, right? Going to Auburn and losing at Auburn Arena, because nobody wins at Auburn Arena. But what is sort of the psychological effect of not finishing a game like that where you led by double digits in the second half against the 11th ranked team in the country?
I think the main thing is just not to lose that edge and confidence. That's what separated LSU so much. It's just, and I'm completely wrong about them heading into the season. I thought the magic they had last year, not just with the talent and Tremont Waters, Nas Reed, Bigby Williams, with his big play at Kentucky last year, it just seemed like every time it was a close game, they knew they were going to win or found a way to win. I just felt like the odds were going to go against them this season, and for the most part, I was wrong. And they feel like they're going to win no matter what happens to them during the course of the game. And just because they've lost a couple, they can't lose that mindset. When they're in that huddle, they got to have that same winner's mentality. And I was just so impressed with them in overtime, because the way things unraveled there down the stretch, and it looked like it was Auburn's game in OT, and they come back, they get that steal. And if McCormick doesn't get the role, I mean, we're still talking about how, other than when they sleptwalked at Vanderbilt, like, hey, this is the LSU team that nobody can beat down the stretch. So I think you just got to keep it in perspective and don't let, a break here or there change your mind about your team. And I know Will Wade will point to things much differently than that. He'll say, hey, here's all these plays during the game that caused us to be in that position, not necessarily the one down the stretch.
Do you believe, just in your time watching basketball, that plays like that balance out? Like Skylar Mays hitting the game winner against Mississippi State, and in this one, it just didn't go your way.
I don't really think they balanced out. I think the better the coaches, the more prepared they are, and the better the team, they tend to get more of those than not. Because, I mean, so often you hear about a certain program or a coach where it's like, oh yeah, but they've only lost, they've lost 10 games decided by, 12 points or less or something, a combined 12 points, I should say. And it's like, yeah, but you keep losing them, so like there's got to be something there that adds up. And because it was that way for me when I first played at Tennessee. We had 2 years under Buzz Peterson before Bruce Pearl came. And every year we were like the king of close losses. And eventually those things just add up. I don't really believe they balance out and it's all luck. There's a component of that, but yeah, to me, Bruce Pearl and Will Wade are two of the hardest working coaches in the SEC. They are film junkies. They are obsessed with their job, no matter if it's a non-conference game against Lipscomb or they're going head to head. And I think what you saw the other night was two programs that have a lot of similarities in their coaching styles. Both guys have a lot of respect for each other. They've studied each other. And I'm living in Chattanooga when Will Wade was here at UTC. Bruce Pearl came up to watch one of his practices to see how he was doing things. And of course, Will Wade was thrilled with that and said, man, I'd love to return the favor. And he went down to Auburn to check him out too. So I think that they just look at the game very similarly, and most of the time both their programs win those games. But when they go head to head, obviously it can't end in a tie.
Dane Bradshaw is with us. He's on Twitter at Dane Bradshaw, SEC Network analyst. 10 games into the league schedule, who's the best team in the SEC?
I got to give it to Auburn right now, just because of the tiebreaker. But, man, I mean, I'm totally changing my stance because I had them more like 5th, 6th after they lost 2 in a row. I mean, it was only a couple weeks ago where they were undefeated, but Bruce Pearl admitted, hey, we haven't played the top teams. Until we do, you can't really judge us. And then they went on the road and lost by 20 twice to Alabama, Florida. And so, but give them credit. They got it together and figured it out. It's just tough to tell because you know the home court advantage. And if some places are a 2 or 3 point advantage, Auburn Arena might be a 6, 7 point advantage. So neutral court, I still probably by the end of the year give a little bit of an edge to Kentucky, just because we've seen over the years how quickly their young guys mature. And you're starting to know what you're going to get from Nick Richards now, which used to be an unknown. We know what we're getting from Ashton Hagans. And then as the freshman, they make huge jumps from beginning of February to beginning of March. And so that's still a stock that I would want to buy right now. And I admit, that Kentucky brand is powerful. So you always kind of start to default to them, even though Auburn and LSU have both shown that they can certainly compete and beat the Wildcats.
You mentioned something a bit ago, Dane, but I agree with you on those points, by the way. But you mentioned something about LSU and the skepticism you had early in the season because there was no Cavell, there was no Nas. From your standpoint, how is LSU doing what they've done to this point, considering they really don't have – we've talked about it a bunch. They don't have a point guard, a true point guard, and they don't have any rim protection.
I just love the way Will Wade plays to his personnel. And there's certain coaches that, especially when they're rebuilding typically, not necessarily Will Wade's case. He's been there for a while now. But, it's like, hey, we're going to run what we run. And even though it might not work great with the personnel this year, they'll be better for it next year and all that. And I feel like some of the best coaches are like, forget that. We're trying to win now and compete in every single game. If we can adjust our system next year, we'll worry about that in the summer. And so you see it now where, hey, they're a more physical team, and so that's what they're going to do. They're going to beat you up. And but it's not that simple either. I mean, I've been in some of those Will Wade film rooms where they don't take the same game plan into every film session. When they're when it's Missouri that they got coming up next, they know it's going to be about physicality, and Missouri wants to win a kind of a slowed down game and grind it out and be the more physical team. And so that's going to be the emphasis. And it can change game to game if you're playing a 3-point shooting team and Will Wade's going to say, all right, our job is to not let them even get off 10 3-point shots. If we do that, we win. So there's always just a theme and common thread due to, again, obsessing over their job and the film study and everything else that goes along with it. And the players can handle it because he can keep it simple, and they believe in it, and they've seen the results. And, on that same note, when you got a senior leader, a brilliant coach on the floor like Skylar Mays, it certainly helps.
Dane Bradshaw, last thing before I let you go, give me, if you would, a thumbnail on tomorrow night's LSU-Missouri game for people, and many here probably who haven't seen Mizzou play yet this year. What would you expect out of that game tomorrow at the Maravich Center?
They got to make sure they don't play down to their competition, and that's with no disrespect to Missouri, but Missouri is a type of team right now, kind of like Texas A&M, where offensively you get in there and you start to get frustrated because you realize real quick you're not going to have your career night. It's harder than you even thought it was going to be. And then when you're not playing one of the top teams in the league and maybe the crowd's not as much into it, it can work against you. I mean, you got to keep playing through the game and know that it's going to come down probably to the last 5 minutes or so before you can really break through. But Missouri's going to be without Jeremiah Tillman, their big man, and enforcer down low. So I think it's going to be similar to maybe Arkansas, where LSU was just able to just dominate the glass and try to. Now Missouri will be better than Arkansas was on the glass, but I still think that's going to be the recipe is using the inside presence for LSU. And I think Missouri's probably catching LSU at a bad time where LSU will certainly be woken up and realize just because we can score 90-plus in a game doesn't mean that's going to be the recipe for winning.
Great stuff as always, man. Dane Bradshaw, SEC Network on Twitter at Dane Bradshaw. Y'all give him a follow. We appreciate a couple of minutes, man. All the best.
Anytime. Thanks, Matt.